Stationery and Office Supplies Limited has been in the business of selling high-quality stationery and office furniture since 1965. Today, we have the opportunity to speak with CEO Allan McDaniel as we hear a little bit about the company, a little bit about his background, how he got to the role of CEO, and then we're going to talk about some other things that are topical for SOS right now. So it's going to be another great episode in our CEO series. So let's get started.
Learning is the key to successful investing. And who doesn't want to invest in some way?
Here at L.E.A.R.N. Grow Invest, we focus on financial education, all with the aim of sharing our knowledge on personal finance, investing, and building wealth. We do this on the foundation of our faith in God.
If a more holistic approach is what you need, check out our Grow Faith-based financial coaching program.
Find out more about us at learngrowinvestclub.com
and follow us on all social media platforms at Learn Grow Invest.
All right, welcome back. Let us pray. Thank you, Lord, for the ability to produce wealth. We pray, Lord, that this will be another great episode, one where we are able to learn and make wise investment decisions. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, everyone, thank you so much for being here. I know this is an early episode, but I trust that if you're not able to catch us live, you would have caught us on the replay. If you missed any of your questions being asked, just understand that we do have 60 minutes that we're trying to do this interview in. So we do have some questions that we've slated to ask Allan. So once we get through those, then we'll go through as many questions as we can from our community. So please, I ask you for some patience. If your question is not asked here today, we'll try to get as much information as we can for you. So please join me in welcoming Allan. Welcome, Allan.
Good evening, Jermaine. How's everything?
Everything is good. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for saying yes to our invite.
Not at all. I've actually watched your videos before, so I quite enjoyed them. So it's a pleasure.
That's very good to hear. That was definitely something that I was happy to hear. You do hope that when you cover a company that the CEO is watching. So hopefully I would have done some justice to the previous videos that I did.
Yeah, there was no complaints from our side.
Great. All right, so let's learn a little bit about you first before we get into company business. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, so obviously, my name's Allan McDaniel. I've been with Stationery Office Supplies since, I believe it's about 98. Grew up here in Jamaica. That's born here, ever raised here. Went away. I went to high school here at Campion. Went away at some point in time to Canada to further education. I've been back here ever since. And ever since then, I've been here working at the office.
Okay. So in terms of, what about before SOS? Have you worked at any other companies? What was that like? Tell us a little bit about that part of the journey.
That's the thing is, truthfully, other than growing up in our teenage years, I started my own little businesses. I used to do things, during summertime, things like that. But I also used to work here. So that's the truth of the matter is when I went away, I had a focus. I was always going to come back here. Whether right or wrong, I had some form of what you'd call tunnel vision. And I always saw, I did summers here. So I always imagined myself here, continuing the family business. And that's ended up happening. So officially, I never really worked other than part-time jobs, a summer job here or there. This has been my life. Learned everything here that I know between here and school.
Great. So once you started, what was that path to CEO?
When I started back here in 98, I believe I started in sales. Something I enjoy, but I don't love it. So, going out there, it was the ground level stuff. Going out, visiting customers, getting sales, meeting people, discussing, knowing your products, those kind of things. So going back, as I said, I'd started during high school and working here. So I used to work in the warehouse. When I came here full time, I started in sales. From there, I went into warehouse management. Not management yet, so I should say, but I was doing things like installations on road. I was, if you want to call it, the road manager. So we had sites we'd work on for days at a time, projects that need to be done. I would head up installations. For example, we went to Haiti for 2 weeks to do a building over there. We did community college in Turks and Caicos. So I would fly out of the country along with the teams. Got pretty good at that, though. I got a good reputation for that. I had people in South America used to call me. I used to do jobs in the States. I would go to Florida, and lead up teams for the first line of furniture that we were representing. And so I did a lot of that. So I was always happy about that because there's nothing anybody could ever tell me that I knew could or could not be done. So it was always good to know the groundwork coming up.
Yeah, that's
Um,
definitely a good trait for a CEO to have as well, right?
I think so. I mean, I've been in in certain things, especially with technology, and you have to rely on other people to tell you, "Oh, this is bad," or "This is bad. You need to do this." When when you're confident in what you're doing, and somebody, you're not that you're not listening to them, but you at least have your own mind about how to deal with certain things. Especially when you have guys coming in, they'll tell you, "Well, this is the best." I'm like, "No, it is not," and there's just no argument with that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, I mean, from there, I came back and then I kind of got more settled into the office and warehouse manager, and I did that for many years. Kind of expanded it towards it now where we have 15 delivery trucks every day, complement of 60 to 70 workers, 4 warehouses. So it's been quite a quite a growth over there in terms of what we're doing, coming from 2 or 3 trucks to 15 and managing them and dealing with all of that. And
Wow.
from there, we once we went and we listed, that's when I took on a actual formal role of deputy managing director, where
Uh,
definitely, and that put me more in the office, dealing with more fundamental office issues, more in line with the accounts department, finances of the company, and that was when, for example, going public. That was one of the things I headed up here. It was a year process again. This company up and ready to be able to go public, and right after that, we purchased Seek. So these were those things that internally, once I became deputy, a lot of the things was able to do and accomplish while in here.
okay. So what would you say? And I just remembered as you were talking that I actually owned a computer business when I was younger,
Mhm.
and we actually used to supply stationery and office supplies to our clients. So I
Mhm.
remember actually one of the suppliers that we used was SOS. So I've actually been familiar with the company for a while. That company closed in 2013, but
Right.
from about 2008 to 2013, we sold computers primarily.
Mhm.
But of course, when you deliver a computer and somebody asks for paper or a chair or a desk, you try to fill that need. And so we were kind of bundling some of our offerings, and SOS was definitely one of the companies that we used to get quotations from, purchase items from, etc. So
It's
definitely
funny.
remember that
And it's
connection.
funny, things haven't changed much because once you're in this business and you get that phone call, you want to make sure that that customer doesn't want to have to go anywhere else. So we all
Yes.
try to get things that we're not heavily involved with, just like yourself. You did computers, but the odd paper or chair, everybody still does that. So it's still going
Yeah.
on right
Yeah. Well, what would you say is the hardest part about being CEO?
now. Not to sound any way about it, but I don't really find any part of it hard. And when I say that, I've been doing this for so long. There's nothing new that I get approached with that really just shocks me. Like, oh, I've never dealt with that before. Everything is there. I mean, even the expectations, whether from listening, going public or not, I think the expectations I have for myself are even higher than most people. So
Yeah.
if I'm letting myself down, it's already there. But the company and the people we have are good. Everybody's here to do what they're here to do and do it well. So once you have a good team around you and you just have clear aspirations and directions where you want to go, I find things can run pretty smoothly.
Okay, great. So I'll flip that question, and what is maybe the best part or the most exciting part about being a CEO?
Again, sitting in this chair for so long, even as a role of deputy managing director, we as a family especially, we all had that time to sit down and make decisions collectively. One of the things, and taking away from the CEO part of that question, is one of the things I love to see is the growth that we've had, and watching from where we've come to where we are now, and everybody's mindset about where they want to go. So for me, that's the best part. When you look around, and we used to be, even our location here, we used to be at 23 Beechwood, and then we got 21, and then we got 25, and then you have Collins Green, and then we're looking at another property now. It's the growth when you take a walk around and to say, well, it's things have progressed well, and things that you can be very proud of looking back at.
Great, great. So thank you for that, background about who you are, how you came up as CEO, and just telling us the things that you enjoy about being CEO. I want to switch the conversation to talk about SOS now as a company. How would you describe SOS to somebody who maybe has never heard about them before?
Well, simply put, SOS is a stationery and office supplies company. It's as simple as that. We supply day-to-day office supplies. We supply furniture for your office. We supply everything office related except for computers. That's where you had that market. But we also believe that that market was very saturated, and it's something with, again, you're
Definitely.
going to get into to compete. Um, it wasn't viable at the time. We really believe in servicing what we sell, and there's nothing here that we don't have our own people in house that can deal with stuff. We don't
Okay.
believe in outsourcing really. I never liked that when I used to run the warehouse, because you found that you outsource people to do something for you. You never really had control of what they're doing, how whether it's acting on site, how they put the item together. So we believe in making sure that what we're offering is the best product at a reasonable price. I'm not going to say the best price out there, but at a reasonable price, and that person knows that they're going to get a good finished product end of the day from somebody who's going to come back and service it if there's a problem. They were always going to be here. So it's a strong family company. We have each other's backs here, and yeah.
Okay, great. So you mentioned the stationary office supplies. That sounds very, I guess, broad in a sense. Is there maybe a core focus or strategy of the company?
You're right. It is broad. So we do furniture and we do office supplies. We have 4,000 SKUs of products between all the office supplies and furniture. And the thing is, we continue to expand it. Just like how we were talking about earlier, you don't want somebody to go anywhere else. We have taken that premise and expanded, for example, to warehousing. We do warehousing. We know people want that. So we have racking, we have the industrial
Yes, I
ladders.
saw that in my research. Yeah.
Correct. And we do all that. We stock all that. So that was another avenue we went into. We went into when we acquired Seek. That was our opportunity to get into back to school, because we never focused on that market before. We were always in the public or private sector, looking at government or privately owned companies. And once we got into Seek, we were able to get into the back to school market. So we again, our focus is wide. There's enough of us here that we're able to monitor what we're doing. We do document destruction as well. People, and I mean that's something that most people do every 6 months. So they just bring their old files here, or we pick them up and we destroy it for them. We give certificates, we give all of that. So we have stopped actually focusing on just office supplies and furniture, and we're broadening our range into safes, into vaults, into printers, other things that are used throughout as well.
Okay. So I guess I'll ask then, based on your response, what would be, so about the 80/20 rule, I'm sure. Where does 20%, or what's the top area of the business in terms of revenue generation or profitability? Where if you could only sell one product for the rest of the year, what would that product be? Or what would that segment of product be?
I
Of
would tell
product?
you that based on just actual value per item, furniture is our heaviest market. I would say if it's 65 to 70% of our revenues for the year, 65, and then stationary down into 35%.
Okay.
So that's kind of how we have our breakdown now. But things like, for example, Seek is growing year to year. I believe last year was our highest year ever, and we had somewhere like a 40% growth. So even though the numbers aren't up there with the furniture and stuff, all the corresponding things that we've started are all catching up and doing their own and picking up as well. Um, but with the furniture, for example, we've expanded in terms of what we've done. We've added our Evolve line. So we've gone just beyond buying and selling a desk. We've gone just distributing for other people who have a brand name around the world. We have that as well, but we've gone as far as going to China, working with factories, creating lines that are what persons are looking for down here, because to be perfectly honest, we're 5 to 6 years behind the first world market in terms of what they're expecting as opposed to what we're expecting.
Yeah.
We're 5 to 6 years behind in terms of price and what they're expecting to pay as to what we're expecting to pay out here. So we've been able to use our knowledge of the market. We've created our Image, our Torch, and our Evolve lines of furniture, which are more focused on the Caribbean and Jamaica. And that's what we're doing now. So we focus quite a bit on the furniture side of it. So we have, as I said, 15 trucks every day on the road delivering one desk, cabinets, chairs. At the same time, we can do an 11-story building tomorrow. Now we have the
Yeah.
manpower and the capability to do it. So we are flexible no matter what comes up.
Okay, great. So in terms of, so you mentioned the scope of the trucks that you have, the scope of your team. How do you see the footprint of SOS expanding, throughout the different parishes and maybe throughout the Caribbean or even wider?
That's looking far ahead. I won't lie, but so like right now we have our location in Montego Bay, which they have their own inventory and they have their own showroom and everything. But we also use it as a hub to make sure we get stuff down there for the western side of the island. They do the Negril runs, they do the Hanover runs. From Kingston, we do island-wide deliveries every week. So one day a week we're in Mandeville, Maypen, St. Thomas, Portland. As I said, Montego Bay manages the western side of the island. We do Otrius. So we actually cover island-wide right now every week. And we're able to even go a step further and give that delivery service as free. So how we entice our customers at the same time is to say, we're coming on this week. If you can wait and I can put a truckload together for 5, 6, 7 different customers, we won't ask you to, you won't have to pay a thing. So people really like that service that we're able to do. And that's what allows us to be able to do it. And so from a Jamaica point of view, maybe one day we'd reach the Mandeville, just depending on how things continue to grow down that side. But right now we are covering the entire island. Regionally, as you know, we're starting to get bigger. We've always done jobs throughout the Caribbean, but it's been a direct push going forward. You may have seen this week here, we just had a release where we have appointed or have a partnership with a distributor now in Cayman.
Yes,
The APEC Group.
there are some questions in the chat about that already, so we'll definitely get to that.
I'm sure they'll be glad for their little bit of promotion in this as well. But things with Office Authority down in Trinidad is working very well, both ways for them. And for Apex, and they, for example, Cayman has a robust, business center and very few options in terms of persons who want to get what they want to get. I've had people come here and buy single stuff just to take back with them because they can't find it. The first thing is to run down to Miami or run up to Miami and grab something. But I think that partnership will work out very well for them as well as us. And we're also looking at continue to expand regionally as well.
Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the recent things that have been announced. So just about a week ago, last week, Monday evening, I believe it was, there was an announcement on the JSC about the company having a consideration for a stock split. Then you had a meeting on Wednesday where the board made its decision to approve said stock split. Talk to us about that process, what went into it, what are some of the considerations that you had, what was maybe a trigger for you to think about the stock split. Just talk to us about that a little bit.
Well, this goes back far, for quite a ways back. I would say 2 years or just pre-COVID, we were pushing probably a $12, $13 stock price as it was from then. And being new into the game, a lot of opinions from the brokers was taken into account. What should we do? When should a stock split happen? What's the purpose? How does it benefit us? And you're asking all the right questions as far as I'm concerned. From then, we always had a $20 marker. Try to get to this level first before you want to, blow it up as per se. But at the same time, there was always that question because we understood that such a majority of the shares were in such few hands. Now, where we all know that doing the split itself drops a dollar value to a smaller value, it does not increase the value of the company. Of course, the hope is that you'll get some kind of bump from that lower value moving forward. And for us, one of the things that we learned when we did the stock split, when we did the original IPO, which nobody ever talks about, is just the publicity you get out of it. The exposure alone for the, call it 1,000 shareholders we had when we did the initial IPO was huge. The amount of people I just ran into and said, oh, I know you guys, or I come and buy from you guys now because I'm a shareholder and I want to make sure, if I'm putting my money, I might as well, buy from you as well. And
that's awesome.
It really was awesome. As you put it right, just to speak to people, and there's it gave that feeling that they know who they were talking to and they felt more comfortable and they were willing to come here at any time. And we honestly believe that yes, the JSE has been great for us. Yes, you can get the capital appreciation on the business and stuff, but I think the untold story is the exposure you get from it. And the more people that are trading, the more people are talking about it, the more times it's on the news, the more time it's in the paper, the more time we're on doing a video chat like this, and that improves the business as a whole.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things as well. If we can continue the trading and get some more, get it trading faster and more regularly, that is what the hope is as well.
Okay. Okay. All right. So in terms of if someone, let's say someone has never heard about a stock split before, what so we've gone through, we've seen the announcement for consideration, we've seen approval by the board. Can you share with us what the next steps are?
Well, the next steps are, I guess you would even understand this. I still learn as well. This is not something that all of us went to school to do, but you pick it up as you go. Now, we had put out a notice to say that the board has approved or is going to recommend to the shareholders. So we will now, we're able, because we haven't had an AGM this year, so we've been able to combine, instead of having EGM as well, is to have this AGM and combine it with the conversation about the stock split, which is set right now, if memory serves, it is, let me pull that back up.
Okay.
But what we are able to do is now they've recommended to go to the shareholders and say, this is what we recommend to do going forward. This is what we believe is in the best interest of the company, and we would like you to vote on it. So it
Okay.
will be at that AGM that the shareholders themselves will vote on it and approve or not approve the stock split going forward. And once it does, the board has recommended a 9-to-1 split, which is just about 2 point increase in the share value, the amount of shares to about 2.1 or 2.2 billion shares, which
Okay.
again, moving up from 250 million will allow for a lot more trading to occur, since there will be more shares out in the open market.
Okay. Okay.
Now, I do know, and I will say that we, by the end of tomorrow, we should have a new uh, post on the stock exchange website with the proper X working dates and everything to do with AGM, including time and date for everything, and the fact that
Okay,
it
great.
will be a virtual meeting.
Okay, great. That's good information to know. Okay, cool. So what I'll do, I will try to get to some of the questions that are in the chat. I do have some that I'll close out with,
Mhm.
but I know there are some persons who are in our chat from 527. So I want to get some of those questions in,
Some
and
before
then
me.
and
How
then
about it?
yes, really before me too. So Elaine is asking, can you expound on the partnership with Office Authority in TT and Apex Group in Cayman, and what does this mean for SOS and its projected revenue?
Well, in terms of the Office Authority, that's slightly different than Cayman. So with the Office Authority, they are a manufacturer as well. They deal mainly with paper products and, sorry, the manufacturing of paper products in Trinidad. One of the things that they've never done, and they've brought in a sales team just to start dealing with, is to sell furniture within Trinidad. Trinidad's economy is very busy, as you can imagine, just like how, well, probably busier than Jamaica is. And it was an opportunity for them to also get into that office supplies furniture market, which they were not in before. We met with them. They liked our products. They liked the price and what it was. We met with them, and there are certain items that, for example, we buy file folders, things that are manufactured out of Costa Rica, which we could shift to them, getting same reasonable pricing and everything, and have a partnership going between the two companies where I have this for you, you have this for me, and we're able to continue and promote each other. So, from our point of view, having dealers or partners in this case with throughout the islands only gives you further exposure, only increases your revenues, and it gives you that added sales person or sales team in a completely different island just to continue to grow the company. As it is right now, over the years, we've had several projects throughout the islands, and this is a way in which our customers also from Jamaica who decide they want to open up in St. Lucia, decide they want to go in Cayman, or the islands that we all know, they can say, because there's many of them from here who say, Allan, where can I go? What can I do? You know what I'd like to buy already. And if I can promote and say, you can go straight to this company right here, it's a win-win for both. They will
Okay.
continue to be able to get from the products that they're comfortable with. They continue to get the good service behind it, and they don't have to start thinking differently and have to worry about where they're going to get their next desk and chair from.
Okay, great, great. Lane is also asking, are there any plans to add any more blue chip companies to the service portfolio for 23-24?
I would. Okay, so if I'm answering that question and trying to understand it properly, are you referring to in terms of acquiring something or just dealing with any more blue chip companies from a SYP?
Yes, I think it's a latter. Aline, please confirm, but it sounds to me like he's asking, I guess, any more companies that you're working with, either in partnership to service their items or doing business with them, etc. That's what I get from the
Well, I
question.
can definitely say that even talking regionally, we are talking to other islands right now, and we absolutely won't say anything until something is, I don't want to use the word signed, or at least a handshake is agreed upon. But just like with Apex and Cayman, now we've been speaking from the beginning of this year, but we're a little bit early actually, and we should be sending out their first container goods next week.
Great.
So as soon as they come up, we will definitely have announcements coming out.
Okay.
And for all the
This
blue chip companies in Jamaica, we're already working with them.
okay. Aline is asking, what is the main reason for the increase in admin expenses? I assume he's relating to the most recent report.
Mhm. If you notice that year on year, we are probably about 20% increase every year right now with the expenses. Now, consider a 20% increase along with a 55 to 60% increase in revenues. I don't really find it as being that significant. We have to take into account that the admin expenses are strictly additional staff coming on, additional salaries being raised, because throughout COVID, with when things were tight, we were very conscious about what we were doing and how we were going to be able to afford it going forward. But with our team and with the dedication that they have, there's no way that we do not look at increasing those team salaries alone. And the salaries themselves being such a big part of our expenses, and your increase of 10 or 15%, that's almost your increase right there.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about that along with a, let's say, a 56% growth in revenue. That offset figure is very small in comparison. So it's not nothing that we're doing exceptional now, but we just need to take on more people. With our increase last year from 1.1 billion to 1.7 billion, there's an expectation that we'll have to get more people in accounts, in uh, in every aspect of the business. To be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah. Understood. A Limitless podcast is asking, why did you consider to do a 9-1 stock split versus a 10-1 or some other multiple?
Um, Again, that actually was a broker question that came up, and we had these discussions about where we wanted the share price to eventually be. We remember at this point in time, we went as high as 35, I believe it was end of last week, gone down to the low 20s today. But we also had to take into account that there would be some kind of flexibility in terms of where we would be on the day of the split. Now, in our heads, the number that we were looking at would be bit between $2 and $3. We didn't want to be the cheapest stock out there, and we're coming from being the most expensive stock on the junior market. So we wanted to find that sweet spot right in the middle, and we believe that a 9-1, depending on where it fell back, when we started looking at the numbers, we based it at the stock being a 20-1, which would cause us the share price to be, excuse me, like somewhere in between 230 and 250, based on where that would be, and that's exactly where we wanted to be at the end of the day. So a 10-1 would have put us at $2 or maybe under, and our first share price was $2. We didn't want to go below that ever.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. I have so many more questions going off in my head there, but I like that. I like that. That's an interesting way to look at it. Limitless podcast is asking, if you had access to 400 million in low interest debt right now, what would you do with the funds? Very interesting question.
That's an interesting exact number as well.
Yes.
Um, can I tell you, there is so many things that we have thoughts about doing. That kind of money, if I was looking at that, that would be definitely some kind of takeover, some kind of as looking at maybe a competitor out there and seeing the value of the company, and buying it out for that case, especially as you put a low interest debt right now. To be honest, as we have grown, we have found that we do have access to that kind of money. We do have access to pretty much whatever we want to be able to make our next big move. Um, we've used a lot of that access to funds to house our warehousing capabilities that we've gone up with, to increase our Montego Bay location in terms of warehousing, as well as we're about to take on a new space down there. We took out a bond to take over Seek. We didn't need to do anything for the printing presses that we took over the other day, but that kind of money, I would definitely think of it as acquiring another company to get under our portfolio, and it's not something that we haven't thought about, or but we also have to make sure it's the right time, the right choice, and making the right decision about it. So having it is one thing, but making sure you can manage it and maximize on it is more important to me.
Interesting. And they followed up with a question to say, what do you think is the next big push for SOS?
Well, Jermaine, you would appreciate the fact that you know certain things I can't answer. Now,
Yes.
if I didn't say that there are things on the books that we are heading towards, I'd be lying. But at the same time, I can't sit here and say what they are. Um, all I would say to you is that for every year we've done something and we continue to do more. And where our goals are to hit our 2 billion this year in revenues, which we're on pace to go. Um, we also have to think about the following year, in which we want to get to 2.4 and 2.5 and continue to grow. So I can guarantee that we have thoughts or plans for the horizon, and that as soon as they come available and able to discuss, we definitely will.
Great, great. Tryon is asking, will SOS be considering to do a quarterly earnings call? I'm assuming that's with Learn Grow Invest. I don't want to put you on the spot, Alan, so you don't have to answer that now, but something to think about.
Absolutely.
All right. Philip is asking, what is the reason for SOS seeking to increase the share liquidity at this time?
Well, I think we went into this before, where we do believe, as I had mentioned, there's the shares are tied up with 9% of the shares are tied up with the top 10%. And we believe that the trade-in, and we went back, we were talking about the exposure we get and the persons who are able to trade. And the more that we can trade, the more exposure SS will get, which will continue to help us grow. But at the same time, we look at it on a regular basis, or at least I do, and the small quantities that are traded every day are so minimal. And I've had so many persons come to me and say, if there was more out there, I'd like to buy. If there was this, if there was that, and we do listen. We listen to the public. We listen to the experts in this field, and this is where it's taken us to now. That we listed in 2017 at $2. We hit a high of last week at $35, and this is from us listening, learning, and growing with it. And this is just our next step to continue the growth.
Yeah. I appreciated the fact that you said learning and growing. That was interesting. Mike J is asking, do local and regional hotel chains purchase safes from SOS?
Goes to a step further. Many of those hotel chains purchase a lot more than that. We do look at some of the hotels who, yeah, I would imagine you say safes, because every room has a safe in it, for example, for personal effects. Sometimes those are difficult because they are able to go directly to manufacturers for that. It's especially in the volume that they're buying. We do quite a work with hotels and stuff, and you can actually see with the 50% increase that we had in Montego Bay just last year, one of their biggest pickups was hotels getting back on course, on track. So their regular, we've done for them. I guess I shouldn't call names, but we've done for different hotel lines. If you've ever gone into these hotels, most times you'll find a bed, you'll find a desk, you'll find a dresser, and you find a chair. We've done chairs for hotels. We have our particular style that people want, and we also, because of our contacts with the factories, we can design things based on their need and their desire. So yes, so we've done hotel work, we've done the chairs, we do all the back offices, and there's other things throughout the hotel that people regularly ask us for.
Great. Philip is asking, what's the board's position on the preservation of existing shareholders' rights in the event of an equity raise?
Honestly, nothing that we've had a conversation about, so it's kind of hard for me. I can't discuss the board's position on that because we've never had that discussion in recent times.
Okay. Lyric Plaza is asking, does SOS plan to do a capital raise in the near future? If so, by what avenue? That sounds related to Philip's question there. So I guess it would be the same thing that...
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, even if I was to say in my own head, when we get there, we'll figure it out. We're not just going to do a capital raise just for the fun of it. It's going to have meaning. It's going to have it's going to have a justification for it. So at this point in time, I can't say to anything there.
Okay. All right. Next question from Philip. When Office Authority's equity stake is completed, will SOS take a reciprocal stake in the company?
Well, Office Authority does not have an equity stake. So I think there's some misinformation on that one. So there's nothing in that regard that I could answer to that.
Okay. All right. Philip, maybe rephrase the question. Philip is asking, how are you positioned to benefit from the coming hotel construction and continuing BPO boom?
Well, I mean that question's easy. So the hotel construction that's going on now, as you can see, there is some significant construction. And don't even just think of the hotels. Think of all the other offshoots of the hotel going up that benefits. Whether you're talking about cement company, whether you're talking about the individual hardware stores, things like this. The more business that one thing that we've always said, and that's from day one. Once the economy is strong, we will be strong. Once things are booming around, we will go down with the economy. There is no two questions, because when people are just not willing to spend, one of the first things they're cutting is office furniture. Why am I buying another chair? Sit on that. It's been good for 10 years. Buy a dining room chair. Bring something from home. There are certain things that people just cut out. Simple, and it's the truth of it. That
Yeah.
cut out. They're not going to cut out
You're
on
very much right.
computer.
Yeah.
They're going to not cut out on certain things, and furniture is always last on the table. I mean, think of how many times you say, listen, where can we conserve? Okay, stop wasting so much paper. That's sales for me.
Yeah.
But anyway, looking at the continued BPOs, we continue to benefit from BPOs going in. Our inventory, we stock enough to do a 300-seat call center from stock. That is workstations, that's chairs, and everything else that comes with it. We've just completed one in Montego Bay for 200 seats. And we're about to do another one for another 200 seats. I believe it's here in Portmore. But the point being is that BPOs are great initial buys. There used to be a time when people said, I want this, or you have 3 months to do it for me. That doesn't happen anymore. They've gotten this building, they've built the building, so they come to you and say, listen, oh, by the way, I forgot about this. I need furniture. I need to seat these people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can imagine a 300 seats with 300 people. That's good business for anybody. Nobody's ever going to complain about that. So the continuing BPO boom is good for every office company, every office furniture company. It's good for us, and we focus on it quite a bit. Hence why we're stocking the partitions, we're stocking the surfaces, we're stocking the chairs, and anybody who wants to start something, whether it's small or big, they can come in, walk in, get from us, and walk out. And we give you a full installed data, electrical, everything, and done, and move on. It takes a lot of headache off the end user.
Yeah, great. Lyric Plaza is asking, is SOS looking to expand further into the Cayman market outside of the Apex Group?
No. One thing that I'm not going to be, I don't want to use the term over greedy or anything, but we want to work with somebody and we want to help them grow. And our plan is to work with a distributor, work and give the support from here, whether it be a drawing, a design, just our knowledge, and work with one person. We would not be interested at this point in getting two people to compete. I don't think that's fair from our point of view, nor would I want to put somebody in that position where they're now going to say, well, I'm not going to buy from you, I'll buy from somebody else. We're here to support and work together with those who we want to work with.
Okay. All right. Philip is asking, have you changed brokers or financial advisors since IPO from JN to NCB Capital Markets specifically?
Well, I will say we started with JN and we did the IPO through them, and through the years we even did the bond with them. Daily, we have everybody speaking to us. We have JN, we have Sagicor, we have all the big names out there. And sometimes it works hand in hand depending on our legal team, who they advise, what's the best group in terms of right now and what's the best timing for certain things. And that's kind of how we do it. We still have a very good relationship with Jan. We still do a lot of work with them. One of the one of the lead people from the initial IPO is actually on our board right now, and he's still with Jan. So we still have a very good relationship, and we try to keep a good relationship with all our financial advisors.
Okay. Philip is asking, do you have a contractual agreement with ITEL BPO that extends beyond Jamaica?
No, we do not. ITEL we've done work with in the past, and I think there's nothing contractual for any of these IPOs to, sorry, not IPOs, these BPOs, to be very honest. They do have a look and a feel that they want to continue with. But in ITEL's case, no, we do not.
Okay. Yared Lee is asking, have you ever considered acquiring your competitor, Nevis?
I don't think they'd like me to answer that one. But Nevis has been around for almost as long as we have. So, how should I say? They have been in the market, and it's actually funny because it's another family company. It's sons who run there, and the family who's within. I know them well. Anyways, we speak, and there's no issues between. It's definitely a competitive balance between the two companies. They've kind of seemed like they've taken their business a different direction. Not saying that they're out of the market at all. I'm not going there with that, but they've done a lot of focus elsewhere. So we've all gone into what we believe is the best way for us. And we're at some point, I think many years ago, they had announced or that they might try to do something very similar in terms of going public. They never did. And at this point in time, we're just continuing to grow, and we're not worried about anybody else.
Okay, I understand. Yared is also asking, any progress in finding the piece of real estate in Kingston for purchase, and what plans do you have for it?
I will tell you right now that yes, we have found somebody. So we can't give you too many details on it now, as until everything's kind of finalized. But we have definitely found somewhere in Kingston to continue to expand. And the initial plan will be, for sure, it will be for warehousing and continued expansion of our product lines.
Great. Does SOS intend to focus more on the document shredding and data disposal service in preparation for the Data Protection Act going in effect?
It's a definite plus, and it is something that we've looked at, for when that time comes. Now we have all of the equipment. I mean, we have advertised that we can do up to 10,000 pounds of paper in any one day with the
Wow.
equipment we have there as well right now. We also can do things such as like point of sale machines. So all the credit card machines that I didn't even know this going into the whole thing, but they store a certain kind of memory. They need to be destroyed. And they used to send them out of the country to actually get destroyed. So
Wow.
we right now are in the process of doing all that kind of that work right now. And it will have to be a different level of conversation we need to have with the board to decide and put a plan to go further with the whole Protection Act and where people are going to go with it, because it will get significantly bigger. And it is something we're looking at, but it's definitely something that will require a heavy investment in machinery to do it properly.
There's definitely an opportunity there, I think, especially within government, because I think if you were to say an area of the country that you're probably most concerned about how data is disposed or anything like that, I think government agencies could definitely benefit from having a place where they can have, confidence that that type of service is delivered well. And so I definitely say it would make me feel comfortable as somebody whose data is out there, right? Because I found it very concerning for me the last 10 years that everywhere you go to ask for a service or request a service, you have to fill out your entire life story to do business. And I always wondered why. I'm like, why do I need to give you my address to pay for a service? Why do I need to give you my phone number, my email address? So I think it's going to be very important that there are companies that provide the service of completely destroying the data that needs to be destroyed so that we can have better, data protection.
And for sure, and you're absolutely right. And you also have to make sure that the people are doing it properly. And when I
Yes.
say that, there are certain people who do things out there, and they will do some shredding, they will do some, there's other methods I've heard about that I wouldn't want to say out loud, because sometimes I even question that myself. But at the same time, what you find is that when we got into it, if we were to focus on what we knew here, it would make no sense. Our initial business plan was based on, I can say it out loud, I'll say BNS's international plan. And this is something that we did a lot of research from a first world country and what the expectations are from them. Because a lot of Jamaican companies weren't ready for it, but it was a lot of the international companies over here, and this is the service that they want provided. And I think the same thing will go back to this, to local, where they need to make sure that, yes, you say you can do it, let's make sure you're doing it properly, let's make sure you're disposing of the material properly from a waste point of view as well. And there will be definitely a market for it.
Yeah, agreed. Sayard is asking how much revenue does document shredding generate?
That is one of our lower sides of in terms of our different departments that we do between the shredding, between Seek, furniture, safes, office supplies, printers. Shredding per year probably doesn't exceed about more than $50 million worth of revenue, but it's also our existing customers who one of the things I don't want is them to go anywhere else. They literally come and we do religiously certain companies every 6 months. We do certain people just know us and bring. It is nothing that we've overly promoted. As I mentioned before, there is a limit to how much we can do right now. And for us to take it any further is do we want to do that investment into the document destruction, or do we want to continue to expand into the furniture, office supplies, or Seek line? And I think right now one of our bigger focuses on Seek and trying to increase the revenues on the Seek side by a minimum of 50% this year going forward as well.
Great. Elaine is saying that you would be surprised what an earnings call with LGI would do for the company. It will keep the company relevant and continue to inform shareholders. You'd almost think I asked them to say these things,
I
but
wasn't going to say anything, but hold on. But I did look, and you have a good following, so I'm sure everybody appreciates. And as I said, I looked at your videos before this when I went through YouTube and I did a search for us, and I sat down there and I watched them. And I was quite happy, and I saw the way you do interact with people, so I can understand why they're saying that.
yeah. Thank you for that. Yared is asking, what's your current market share compared to other office furniture suppliers?
Very difficult question to answer. We have gone to the Statistical Institute of Jamaica. We've tried to find a way in which we can calculate a market share. We have an estimation, and my estimation is my knowledge of the market and the bigger players in it. And we believe that we should be anywhere from 40 to 45% in terms of market share. Now, it's very hard and difficult to justify that because you have your bigger players that are actually known for this kind of stuff, but you also have a lot of small people out there who are doing that as well, buying and selling and bringing in things from different places and maybe selling household goods, but then they threw in some furniture stuff in here. So it's a very difficult thing that nobody has actually taken the time to do. And when we thought about doing it, it would also require us going to all of us and saying we're all willing to put in money to have this research done. And trust me, that's not the easiest thing to get.
It's not easy in general to get that type of data. Yeah, I understand. Philip is saying that you can ask Blue Dot. You can link Blue Dot Insights to help you get that data.
Absolutely. And you can look at persons like that, but what they need to do is be able to go to the other suppliers and get their information. And that's honestly not something you get from people very easily. Not a lot of people. We're good. We're public. Everyone has our information. Before we're public, we would be very tight
guarded about that.
So the information gets out as well. So it's very difficult to assume A, they're going to give the correct information, or B, that they would give the information at all.
Okay, agreed. All right, so I have a few more questions here. So what I'll do, we have about 10 minutes to go. So what I'll do, persons who are here live, just understand I'm going to go through some of these questions that were submitted before. And if we're not able to cover everything, again, what I'll probably do is collate the questions, send them into Allan and try and get like a summary response to send back to everyone. But of course, if you're a shareholder, you can attend the AGM, and I'm sure you'll have the opportunity to ask some questions here as well.
We look forward to more persons coming to the AGM.
Yes. We do. So a question here is asking for you to clarify the effective date of the stock split. But you did say that there's some information coming out tomorrow that will address that, right?
We will have that posted and up for everyone to see everything.
Okay, great. Is the partnership with Apex Group a long-term one?
The partnership is, I would like to call it long-term. We don't put anything in a contract to say that we're going to do this for 5 years or 10 years. This is a handshake deal going forward that we are going to provide the support and the supplies for them to continue to grow their operation in Cayman. And so it's not long-term, it's not short-term. We're working with it and taking it day by day and making sure that it's the best for both of us.
Okay. What's the projected frequency of shipments to Cayman for that Apex partnership? Is that something you're able to quantify?
I mean, again, it also depends on how much business they're doing and how much push they're putting on it there. If to start, especially with an island the size of Cayman, if you should tell me I could get 3 to 4 containers this year, I would be happy in year one.
Okay. Are there any acquisitions in the pipeline?
Definitely many things being looked at right now, but nothing that can be spoken about generally.
Okay. How soon can we expect to see Q2 results being posted?
Well, Q2 results should be I believe it's the 15th of August. Q2 is April, May, June, and 45 days after that. That would put you to roughly the 15th of August, give or take, and they'll be out at least there.
Okay. How does SOS's furniture lines align with the personal protection products that Apex currently offers? An interesting question.
It's interesting. I guess I never looked at it because they do windows and doors, and this is what their line of business is. Now, I'm not too sure if they're doing the furniture to coincide with their personal products, or sorry, their protection, but they definitely have contacts in these businesses that they're walking into to get other work done and interior work, where they're doing windows, doors, interior work for persons, and they have an opportunity to say, we can also provide you the furniture. So it goes hand in hand as an add-on to what they're already doing. So I don't believe it's because of what they're doing now in terms of how they make their products, as opposed to just an add-on to what their products are that get them through the door to be able to provide additional sales for themselves.
Okay. Will the partnership with Apex see SOS providing Apex's products in Jamaica?
Not at this time. I'm not sure in terms from a manufacturing point of view how large or how big they could actually provide to be able to discuss distribution throughout other islands. But if the opportunity presents itself, we definitely would start looking at any other opportunities that would make sense for us.
Okay. Does the company have any capital-intensive projects in the pipeline?
Are we referring to Apex or are we referring to SOS?
SOS.
I can say that SOS just completed its largest single project in its history, and that just completed this month here, which will also be in Q2's results. I won't get into who it was, but it was our one-off largest individual project.
Nice. Looking forward to more information on that. It says here the company has significantly reduced its debt load over the past few years. Are there any immediate plans to take on more debt funding?
I kind of grew up in the old school way of looking at things, and if you had the cash you could pay for things, you did it. We are very proud of the fact that our debt to asset ratio is one of the lowest on the stock exchange right now, and we will continue to keep it there until the opportunity presents itself that we need to go to raise some form of capital for whatever purpose it be. As we did last year, and we took over D&K Printing to do an add-on, we're able to do that out of cash flow, and we feel more comfortable not putting ourselves in a position to strain ourselves. But if we can continue to run things out of cash flow, we are good with that. But we are also looking at projects that are going to require some heavy capital investment, and once that comes up, we like to know that we're in a position where it's not going to really affect us. Some people are so debt heavy right now that they have to stop and look at, okay, where else can I get financing because we already used up all of this. We're not in that position, which is fortunate, and which will allow us to do almost anything we want going forward.
Okay. This question asks, what has led to the compression in margins on furniture over the last few years? Saying here that margins fell from 50% in 2019 to 29% in 2022.
I would have to look back at that because those numbers don't sound right to me.
Okay. It
because
says
overall, let's say overall, even for this year, we're still looking at our gross profit is around between 50 and 52% overall as a company. So to tell me that's something, unless there was a mistake somewhere in there that has dropped to 29, I'd have to check those numbers.
So what I'll do, the person who submitted that question, if you're watching, just please send more context. You have a few minutes if you want it answered now to just post it in the chat or send it to me directly on Telegram, and I'll try to repost it here. Just two more questions. It says here, pre-COVID furniture was the dominant segment in terms of revenue and gross profit. Does the company foresee the sales and profit mix sh- shifting back into that direction or staying as it currently is? So I guess they're saying pre-COVID, furniture would have been your dominant segment. Do you see it going back to that now that we are moving away, further from the pandemic?
All right, so I'll say something here, which is probably not the wisest thing to say. Going back to our previous years, and when I say previous years, when we first listed and coming forward there, segment segment reporting was, I don't want to say it was inaccurate, but it wasn't as accurate as it should be. There's no two lie of that. And we have definitely made a focus on improving that as the years have gone by. Um, right now, furniture continues to be more dominant. Stationery has definitely picked up, and you'll find that right now we should be in at least a 60-40% I would say this year going forward, a 60 being furniture and 40 stationery. And you will have your times. In harder times, you'll find that you're going to sell more stationery than furniture. In times in which companies are flourishing, you're going to have more furniture than stationery. It's just the way it goes. It's somebody saying, let me make my staff feel better. I'm willing to spend X amount of money, and let's get everybody new chairs. Because
Yeah.
the truth of the matter is, simple things like that is such a morale boost within an office that that's why people like to do facelifts. That's why people like to do this. I mean, at the end of the day, it would be cheaper for every company to have the same desk that they had when 1960 when they first opened, and
Yeah.
sometimes those furniture from back then actually could last this long. But it's a morale boost, and when persons have the funding to be able to do it, they will do it. But that's why I said it's when things are hard, it's the first thing that persons will cut out.
Yeah, and I mean the average price of the typical stationery item is also going to be different from
Correct.
the average price for the furniture items. So, my wife loves stationery. Actually, have to keep her away from like bookstores, stationery stores, etc., because she's gonna just come up with a lot of little items. But it's still going to be different if maybe I go to buy a desk or chair. It's just going to be a different value. So,
You're perfect. I
I
feel
think
that
that's what.
that's exactly it. Buying a pen at paying $50 or $100 as opposed to buying a chair that you're paying 15 to 20,000 for. Is just That's just what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. All right. And the final question here that I see is, what percentage of sales are exports?
Exports, I'm going to say it's a very small percentage. Year to year, we've come from maybe 1 to 2 to 3 containers, and those generally were projects for particular clients or customers going through the years. What our goal from last year going into this year is to increase that from a regional point of view, and just to continue to grow the revenues in that regard. But even now, the bulk of our growth in revenue last year was strictly local. So even if we are doing somewhere between 5 to 8% would be what's regional from an export point of view.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I like to ask this question to our CEOs as we prepare to close. Where do you see SOS in the next 3 to 5 years?
Barring anything unforeseen like COVID going forward, yeah, that's a different story. But we are growing. There's no two questions. We're continuing to capture market share. We see our push on the outside continue to evolve. We see certain plans and projects we have on the horizon continue to grow. It would be, if I was to lie to you and say that every year we back in 2019 we crossed the $1 billion mark for the first time in terms of revenues, and all of us scratched our head and said, what are we going to do next year? How can we repeat this? And we did. Sorry, that's when COVID came. And then our concern was getting back there, and now in 21 we were able to cross the $1 billion mark again. And last year we were able to hit the 1.1 million, and then we flourished and went as far up as 1.75 billion. Every time we do this and we try to see how do we do better, it's a stress, it's a worry, but we continue to do it. And honestly, it's not just because it's handed to us, it's because everyone works Everyone has plans. Everybody has time and effort into it. And I believe with the thoughts and with the plans and the partnerships that we're creating going forward, we will continue to grow. And as I said, our goal for this year is to cross the $2 billion platform and to put an extra 10 to 20% or call it 15% in 2024 to $2.3 billion platform. So, yes, we have plans. Yes, we have thoughts. Yes, we have ideas. And it's more than just thoughts to be able to make them work. And if they do, and if we continue to put the time and effort into it, I believe we will continue to grow. And that's without a doubt.
So do you see maybe somewhere between 5 to 10 billion in 5 years, maybe?
Now you push me hard. How about we just work on next year for now? And if we can continue to do a 15% every year, we'll be good.
Okay, okay. All right, fair enough. So, some personal questions as we prepare to close here. What's your personal investment strategy? I don't know if you invest in the stock market, maybe in real estate, or any type of investment. What's your personal investment strategy? And if you do invest in stocks, what's in your portfolio? Just industries. Don't state any specific companies, please.
No, I mean, as of right now, I dabble stock market. Again, nothing of any significant consequence, but I'm always looking at it based on I'm the main focus here when it comes to the stock exchange and everything. So it's part of my daily routine as it is. Um, I spend so much time and so much focus here that our understanding here is probably wrong, but we spend so much time and focus here from a family business to make sure that this is growing, and the individual benefits will come along with that. So it's really hard to sit down here, and I mean, I'm not somebody who is here loaded and that's how I'm making any money. My earnings are coming from work and working hard here and making sure this company continues to grow.
Okay. So you're working so that investors in your company will be able to see a return, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So, next question is, what books are you reading currently? Books or maybe podcasts you're listening to, anything of that nature?
Well, obviously yours right now. Um, but honestly, for me, once I leave this office, I don't even try to take my computer home with me. I won't lie. To me, I'm a outdoors person. I enjoy sports. If I can get on the tennis courts, if I can get on a squash court, I get on a football field, anything for that nature. Son plays basketball. So once I leave here, my goal is to get outside. My goal is to go like a kid. I want to go run around. I want to go do something. I want to break a sweat. I want to do something. I'm not. My sisters definitely are. I'm not the one who likes to lie down in bed and read a book. That is not my enjoyment, my pastime, or my hobby. So I'm definitely more into. I don't want to use the word fitness, but I enjoy the competitive sports out there. That's where I'm going to leave when I go. When I go.
Okay, cool. And so a great part of our community is made up of entrepreneurs. So one of the questions that I'd ask you to maybe help them is, what is an underestimated part of getting funding for your company?
I don't know. That's a hard one to say because it's been so long. I mean, we've had the funding part of us getting funding hasn't been difficult in the years. I believe, and as I had mentioned, a lot I learned within the business. It's a family company. Mother and father have been here for 50 years from the inception. I have two sisters and a brother-in-law here, plus myself. So there's six of us, and we really believe in each other. And from a funding point of view, you just need to make sure that you have to plan things right. You have to make sure that you're not cutting corners just to make sure it looks better. You'll only hurt yourself in the long run. If you're going to do something and you want it funded, put your presentation together, put it together properly. Don't miss anything, or try to not intentionally miss anything, and just make sure that you're confident in what you want and going forward, because most financial institutions are looking for I don't want to say the next big thing, but they're definitely looking, because there's a lot of smart people in this country, and there's a lot of opportunity still to be had. And I
Yeah.
believe if you're really just going to do it, just have some confidence, put it together, and make sure that if you're confident in what you're going to do, people will be confident in you as well, as long as it's real.
Great. So Rosemary here is saying that SOS provided her school with items for the children on Children's Day, so she greatly appreciates that gesture.
Welcome. Which school is that, if she does respond back?
Yes, Rosemary, let us know which school that is. Elaine is asking, do you have any plans to increase the dividend yield to 10% in the near future?
Well, right now we have, I believe it's a $50 million dividend being paid within the following month. I believe it's out next month. We watch that. So when we first did the IPO, we said we would pay up to 25% throughout the years. But we also want to make sure that we keep enough cash here and be liquid enough to be able to do what we want to do. I will say that we would probably look at the 50 million now, see where, obviously we're halfway through the year. We know where we're going. We know our projections are, but we also like to see what happens on the second half of the year. Now, I believe that if you see, or I believe that once we see that things continue to prosper, or things are, or if they take a downfall or whatever it is, we would look at that as paying 2 dividends for the same year. So one, based on the fact that we're continuing to do well, let's make sure that we're hitting our goals, hitting our marks, and if we do, we will continue to pay another one. But it's also one way of making sure we stay liquid and not just give out all the money right now and then something happens at the end of the year that we want to get involved with and that we just can't because we did something too early.
Okay. Another dividend question here. Do you plan to move towards paying quarterly dividends? Maybe that's something you've thought about, maybe depending on, I guess, the same factors that you're just mentioning.
Yeah, definitely not quarterly. That would be way too much at this point in time, but definitely more probably biannually.
Okay. So Rosemary said it's for the YWCA in Spanish Town.
Okay. I'm glad to know that was appreciated. You're welcome.
Great. All right, so I think that's it. Guys, if I missed any questions, please, I do apologize, but we are over time. So Allan, I wanted to give you the opportunity to maybe say anything in closing that you'd want to say to clients, shareholders, just about anyone that you'd want to leave a message to. So I'll put you full screen and you can go ahead and say your closing remarks.
Well, at this time, I would just like to say thank you to everybody who showed up this evening. Jermaine had mentioned to me that there is quite a number of questions in the queue to discuss, and the mere fact that you are here to discuss an SOS business, I really appreciate that. We really do appreciate our shareholders and all the persons who come and visit us on a regular basis and support us going forward. And SOS has been here for 50 plus years, and we expect and hope to be here for another 50. And I just hope to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to best serve you, as well as shareholders, to make sure that you're proud of the way this company is running and what you're seeing going forward with it.
Great. Thank you so much, Allan. Really do appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. Great discussion. I think there's a great value from our conversation. I'll definitely be rewatching. It's not always easy for the information to resonate when you're the one hosting. Mm-hmm. So I'll definitely be rewatching this one. Thank you so much. And we'll definitely be speaking again soon.
Absolutely, anytime. It's also hard for me, as sometimes I forget what was actually coming out of my mouth, so it's nice to hear back what I actually did say sometimes.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, we do plan to do more coverage of the process as it goes, because what we are trying to do is actually use the events of the market as opportunities to create educational content. So this is the first split that we're going to cover in this depth. So we're hoping that there'll be further opportunities to teach our community members. And so we're going to be doing some more SOS videos, definitely.
Not a problem. Look forward to seeing them.
Take care. Bye. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all your questions. Please do take a moment to like the video. We do have a lot of interesting content coming up, some more interviews that we're working on. So be sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications. You've probably noticed that we're not sending out the same number of emails anymore or the same posts on social media. That's actually intentional. What we want to do is actually focus. We do have a small team. It's focused on our YouTube content primarily. So you have to be subscribed, turn on post notifications, because we're not going to be posting it as much, because what we're trying to do is figure out the best pieces of information to share that will bring you the most value. So we're kind of changing up that mix a little bit. So if you have not been seeing us post on social media or post anywhere, that is intentional. And what we're trying to do is focus on getting you more videos, more content, more education. All right. So thank you so much for all the questions. Hopefully everyone's happy with the questions that were answered. If you do have more questions, just let me know and I'll send them across to Allan and the team. So thank you so much. I really do hope to see you in the next video.
Learning is the key to successful investing. And who doesn't want to invest in some way?
Here at L.E.A.R.N Grow Invest, we focus on financial education, all with the aim of sharing our knowledge on personal finance, investing, and building wealth. We do this on the foundation of our faith in God.
If a more holistic approach is what you need, check out our Grow Faith-Based Financial Coaching Program.
Find out more about us at learngrowinvestclub.com
and follow us on all social media platforms at L.E.A.R.N Grow Invest.